Hi, everybody. This is July 23rd. Good thing I have a calendar right here because I don't know what day of the week it is half the time. Um, and Dave, don't say a thing about that. He's all right. Nothing about my state of mind. Anyhow, today our guest caller is Betsy Gotta, and along with Betsy is her husband Roy, who is very well known round dance cuer as well. And a lot of history there. Between the two of them, they probably have more years experience than all of us put together. Betsy goes way back, and it's one of the really interesting things about um, the callers I interview. There is something unique about every single one of them, for sure, if not several things. But I'm going to let Betsy explain more of that as we go. And certainly, if you have comments to make, feel free to make them. Uh, you will not penalize points on that account. You still win all. You get to keep all the money that you earn as we go. There's, but you get points for good questions and embarrassing scenarios. So Betsy, welcome. And I have one first question. I always like to have one question that is so important to the calling activity. If y'all watch Dave Hutchison, he's on there smoking up a storm. Uh, yeah, thanks, Dave. Anyhow, when Dave and Dave are on, and he had me do this whole thing about creating choreography and all the essentials of being a great caller. But the question then was, now with all that in mind, what was the first McDonald's you went to? And I saw people shaking their head like, "What's that got to do with anything?" So, for Betsy, my question is, did you ever run away from home?
No.
I'm wondering why not, but
No.
I knew your dad. Anyhow, why don't you go ahead and give us a little synopsis, Betsy, of the journey from embryo to full-fledged caller?
Okay. Well, I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I lived in Highland Park for the early part of my life, which was where my dad was born. And their next door neighbor, sometime in the 50s, got them involved in square dancing. And the person who taught, and I'm an only child, the person who taught my parents to dance had a program for kids at the YMCA in Metuchen, New Jersey, which is not too far from where we live right now. And I don't, it was the old time stuff. It was, what we do now was not invented. This would be somewhere in the 1950s. And I was probably,
Early 1950s.
I was going to say, will you shut up?
Well, be honest.
You don't have to, you don't have to, you don't have to stress it.
That's a definite 89 points, Roy.
Out of how many?
Out of 88.
No, but we did the old time stuff, like first couple bow and swing, lead out to the right of the ring, and circle left halfway and duck for the oyster and dig for the clam and duck through a hole in the old tin can. And so I started with that. And the stuff that my parents were doing was probably not much different. And as unfortunately, this guy had a day job and he called and he worked in the New York City and he had an early heart attack. So that was the end of that program. But then by then I was hooked. So I went with my parents to dances, and I would dance with my dad. And so through the middle 1950s and the late 1950s and the 1960s, a lot of the calls that we use now were invented or came into use. There was a sheet of the mainstream list that Caller Lab put out a while ago that was so interesting. I maybe have a copy, but I haven't found it recently. But it had all of the calls that were then on the mainstream program, and whether they had a little T if they were traditional, have been used. If they knew when they were invented, they had a date next to them, and so you could trace how the programs had grown from what came over with the colonial dancers, and and grew up throughout the years, and were revived after World War II. So you could trace all that on this list. And I don't know if anybody in Color Lab office has a copy of it. I'm sure I have one somewhere, but I didn't find it during the pandemic.
Oh,
I spent the couple years of the pandemic sorting through 40 years of paperwork.
yes.
So that's how it started. So basically, I just was dancing with my parents, um, and we were living in Highland Park, and my dad got transferred to Southern Jersey, so we moved, and there was a group in Pennsylvania called Why Nots, and you realize this has gone by 14 or 15 years now. The Why Nots presidents and officers had kids, and so there was a group of junior Why Nots, and any of the kids were welcomed as long as the children of the officers were part of the club. And when they graduated high school and went to college or went away somewhere, then some of the rest of us didn't feel quite as welcome anymore. And by then, my dad had gotten interested in calling, and they prevailed upon him to start a teenage group called the Church Mice. And that's where I started to call, but it was later. And one of the things my parents did, we went on vacation. We went to something called KDI, which was a dance week, which is still going on. In fact, I just talked to a caller who is now calling for it. There was a Stu Shacklet.
KDI was Kentucky
Kentucky Dance Institute, and Stu Shacklet ran it for years. And this other Stu is now really not able to run it anymore or call for it, but this other caller is still calling. And they did square dancing and folk dancing and contra dancing and round dancing and anything that was connected with the square dance picture. So growing up, I did a little of all of that. And in my life, I have been active in international folk dancing. When I got out of college, I was always active in square dancing. Once I got a partner, it was easier to round dance.
Yeah.
And I still go contra dancing on a regular basis.
Tell them the story
Wow.
about the Kentucky Dance Institute.
Which
When
one?
you called.
Oh, so the first place I actually called was at Kentucky Dance Institute. The caller then was a man named Ricky Holden, who he was in Delaware at that time, and he was the first editor of American Square Dance magazine, the one that was not Sets in Order, but the other one that Stan Burdick took over. Ricky Holden was the editor of that magazine, and he worked for Folkcraft Records, which did square and folk dance music, and they were out of Newark, New Jersey. And so Ricky was running a caller school. Now that particular year, my mother couldn't go to Kentucky Dance Institute because she'd broken her ankle going between dances. They picked me up at my dance and they were going to their dance, and she slipped on the ice, and that was the end of her dancing for a while. So my dad and I went by ourselves. So my dad took the calling course, so I did too. And so the first dance I ever called,
She was 10 years old.
11. I was 11.
Minus 2 points, right?
Yeah. But so we all had to call a dance at the Saturday evening program. So the first
gee.
dance I did was a old dance called Chase the Rabbit, a visiting couple dance, and there was no monitor speaker, and Ricky Holden was beating on the table so I could hear the beat of the music because the sound wasn't exactly right. And I was successful. And I still went outside and cried. And I said, no, I'll never do that again. Not ever. But then, in 1962, so that would have been what, 50, I was 11, 50, 58,
58.
58. In 62, the National Convention was in Miami, and there was a girl caller named, I believe, named Charlotte Watkins, because this was a long time ago. And she was kind of la-di-da, I'm a caller. And I was dancing with a cute boy and wanted to impress him. So I said, well, I could do that. Because I had called one dance and my dad had a teen club. So I had a place to call. So when I came home, from the National Convention, I told my dad I was gonna call again. And that's how it got started. I wanted to impress a cute boy.
And by the next year, she was called her first tip at the National Square Dance Convention
Oh my gosh.
Signed up in the youth room.
and hasn't missed one since.
Wow. That's a lot of conventions.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Last year was her 60th consecutive national that she called at.
Yeah. That allows for the one that they didn't have during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't count that one. It was 60 actual conventions,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
which I claim is a monument to either optimism or stupidity. Well, no, each year you go to the convention. Each year there's the people from the NEC who guide the folks, the local folks, but each year the local folks reinvent the whole thing. So each year you've got all this experience and you're hoping for a really good spot. And maybe it comes and maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. That's so, and you're coming out to Canada's national in 2024.
Yeah, because we
That's
got
good.
well, we got started in Calgary, or at the Canadian National,
Oh, you did? Okay.
2004.
2004, yeah. Okay.
Because we were going on an Alaskan cruise with our friends Mickey and Rosemary for our 30th anniversary. Yes. And we cruised south and finished in Vancouver, and they went, it was a different week, which was what allowed us to make it. Because of the stampede, they had to change the date, the standard date of the Canadian National Convention, and that allowed us a week. I had a conflict previous to that, and then because the week was changed, we were able to go. And since we were coming into Vancouver, it was easy just to go over to Calgary. Our friends went
Wow.
home and we went on to Calgary.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's great.
we're really impressed at how they treated the callers and cuers, and we decided we got to keep doing this. Now, the impressive thing was they had an after party for the callers and cuers at the end of the convention, and it was Calgary, so they actually had 2 carving stations. I mean, this was some,
This is some special after party.
yeah.
Yeah. That sounds good. I'll have to work on it. I'm program chairman, so I think we're just going to have booze.
That works for me.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work for me, but we'll call it a Coke party. We'll get many more people if we call it Coke party.
Yep.
Non-dancers included.
That depends on which type of Coke they think it is.
I'm just
Well,
gonna
that's
say,
just it, yeah. Lordy. All right. Well, and that brings us up to current day. So what's happening today in your square dance life?
I'm overbooked.
Again?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, would you have it any other way?
No.
No,
Well,
absolutely not.
We were trying to cut back a little, but we lost so many people who didn't come back to calling after the pandemic.
Yeah.
There was normal attrition, and then others who said, "You know what? I don't need to do that anymore," and it's
Yeah.
created a problem.
Yeah. Those were people who were not addicted.
Right.
People you see here are we're addicts, square dance addicts, round dance addicts. You know, we can't quit, no matter how hard you try. But so you have your own home club or clubs.
Yeah. I share.
And,
Our home club is called the Rutgers Promenaders. It used to be on the university campus for many years. It's going to come up on its 70th anniversary, Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
wow.
next year will be 70 years. It started in 54. It was
Okay.
on campus then. I was not calling for it. I wasn't even a part of it.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a student who was calling for it, I believe.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway, and we left campus about 1989 or 1990 because it just got harder and harder to book the campus venues.
Plus, they stopped funding it. They
Oh,
decided that they cut back on student activity funding, and so they stopped funding it. And then they wouldn't give us a place to dance that we could count on. They said, "Well, you can have this venue, but we can only guarantee you it was 2 or 3 nights
Nights per
per
semester.
semester. I mean, we can book the rest, but if someone else wants it after your minimum, then they get it."
And they will usurp your room.
oh
So,
yeah.
You can't run a group like that.
but the alumni wanted to keep it going, so it's still going.
Super. Yeah, after talking to a number of callers who met their partners, or for the guys especially who discovered women through square dancing, that would be a great advertising or marketing campaign for on campuses, you know, aimed at the guys because they're the ones that are hardest to get hooked. Saying, meet girls.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't get away with it now, but one of our most successful advertisements, because there were always extra women on campus, there were always extra women, and one of our most successful advertisements was in the campus newspaper, the Targum, and it said, "Guys, want to learn 68 moves on 4 women at a time? Come for free introductory lesson." Now it's definitely not politically correct anymore. It wasn't even politically correct then. But our next
Yeah.
open house, we had extra men,
Oh
and
my
enough of them
gosh.
liked the dancing that we got a better balance.
Yeah. Jeez. Uh, Too bad we can't get away with it. I think we should try it. We can
Well,
beg for forgiveness later.
you could tone it down and say square dancing is the perfect activity for men. There's no fancy footwork. Uh, oh, there's a second one, and when you get to meet women and you get to put your arm around some lady's waist every dance, because every time you courtesy turn, you put your arm behind the lady's back.
Yeah.
You could tone
Perfect.
it down a little, and
Yeah. I think we'll have to work on that.
Well,
There should be a Color Lab committee.
one of our flyers we're just starting to put out for the next class is better than bacon. It's great. And there's a little asterisk after the better than bacon at the bottom of the flyer. It says, "Well, better for you."
Oh, yeah. That's good. Oh my. And are you doing much calling on Zoom?
not so much now because
No.
I'm calling
Too.
I'm calling in real time a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's one group in Albany that was
Oh.
started by Ken Ritucci, but then his job caused him not to be able to call for them on a regular basis anymore. And for me to go to Albany is ridiculous. It's a 3.25 hour drive, call a 3 hour dance, and then a 3.25 hour drive home. And I'm old. I'm too old for that.
We used to do that all the time, though.
I've done it, and I just don't want to do it anymore.
No, no.
But 3 hours on Zoom is reasonable.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
And
so nice to do, isn't it? You don't have to pack up stuff, and
right.
works great. That's my old stamping ground, Albany area.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But they go to the hall and they actually have an MA150 and there's permanently mounted speakers. So
Yeah.
and they get 2 squares and Betsy's sight calling via
Yeah.
Zoom.
Todd
Yeah.
called for them previously, I remember.
yeah. Yeah, that's of course most of the people that I started in Albany are probably long gone by now. Although
I don't know, some of them may still be in this group.
there well may be, yeah. So we know what got you into square dancing, what led you to become a caller. It was a boy.
He was a boy,
Yeah.
and I never saw him again.
Oh.
So he was in Florida, and I was in New Jersey, and there were long distance charges,
Yeah,
and there wasn't any internet.
I was going to say that's where you would hang on to the phone for hours and saying nothing, right? And
Right.
all of a sudden you'd think of something to say. Yeah. Uh, okay, so I don't know. Is there a well? Let's go on to the embarrassing moments with the longevity that you've had. Um, what kind of embarrassing moments can you remember that involved square dancing?
I don't know. I think I put most of them out of my brain.
That's not fair. We need to be able to laugh with you and at you. Also to say, oh yeah, been there, done that. Did you ever fall off the stage?
I did actually, but not all the way.
Oh gee.
I was on a stage, and there was about a 10-inch to a foot gap between the stage and the wall. And I was walking
Oh.
back and forth, and I stepped back, and my the ball of my foot was kind of still on the stage, but the rest of my heel was off, and I leaned back, but I bounced off the wall and came back up and took a step forward. So I didn't actually fall off the stage. I just bounced off the wall, and I did manage to keep calling.
The important thing, yes.
Yes,
That's when you tell you say to the people, "I just broke a rib, but keep dancing.
keep dancing.
Don't
Yeah, I'm
stop." Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
I
good.
don't know if she's had
So
like embarrassing situations, but you have like situations you can't believe were happening. Like she's calling Saturday night at the National Square Dance Convention, and all of a sudden they're taking down the decorations behind her.
yeah,
Yeah,
And these were like solid, these weren't just like a couple of, balloons or something. They're taking stuff off the walls and dismantling wooden things. And we're going, what the? It's,
jeez,
yeah. They were eager to get out of there. I think it was an after party.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's funny. Sometimes the things that happen around you. I don't know if you remember the program. Oh, I can't even remember the name of it. Anyhow, this lady with her huge mouth would be the interviewer or whatever, and they would people doing unusual things.
Uh-huh.
What was called anyhow? I think it might have been Memphis National, and Bruce Bush was calling in one of the challenge halls, and that whole crew, the film crew and the lady, they come bursting into the room, right up on the stage, looking at Bruce like face to face, like, well, "What are you doing?" And I was emceeing at the time, so I had to grab them and say, "This guy is." I lied. I said, "This guy is busy working. This is his job. You have to do your thing later. People here they've paid to listen to this guy. You can't be here." You know, so it's how do you handle these crazy moments when outside action happens?
Yeah, I did make national TV one year, actually local TV, um, in Dallas, Texas, 1965. And I'm standing there calling away, and somebody came up to me. You just reminded me of this. Somebody came up to me and stuck this thing in my hand. It was large and bulbous, and I'm like, "What do I want to do with this?" I was uh, about 17 then, and I was doing a singing call, and I'm like, "What do I want to do with this?" And my brain said, "I'll just move it and put it down on the table." And in the entire time that it took me to finish the singing call, I never got my hand to move to put this down on the table. It was a microphone for the TV news.
Oh my gosh,
Had I put it down on the table, I wouldn't have made TV.
that's right.
But
Wow.
I literally was frozen and didn't put it down on the table. Now, there was another time, um, Indianapolis, 67 at the National Convention, in 66, because it was before Philadelphia. And so I had a live band spot, and it was outside, and it was dusty, So I just grabbed a sip of a Coke from the band person's cup.
Yeah.
It wasn't Coke.
No.
It wasn't all Coke. There might have been some Coca-Cola in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was quite surprised.
One of those rum and rum drinks, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, how would you describe yourself in one word?
Dedicated?
Okay. I don't always expect you to come up with the perfect answer on these questions,
That'd be crazy.
but it's crazy. Yeah. That's two different sides of the mic there. Yes.
That's it.
I think dedicated covers it pretty well when you think about, the leadership roles that she's basically been willing to take on over the career. I
Yeah.
mean, as far as I know, she's the only one, and I had a little bit of part of that, who's been on the executive committees and the board of directors of Caller Lab, Round the Lab, Contra Lab, Arts, and Legacy, if you remember far enough back, the organization Legacy.
Wow.
So, and that's pretty dedicated.
Yeah. It's amazing the amount of work it takes behind the scenes, isn't it?
Yeah. At Caller Lab, they give us all these ribbons, and I haven't watched your interview with Clark Baker, but Clark was the one who he and I were talking about all the ridiculous ribbons, and Clark was the one who said we ought to get one that says "Too dumb to say no," and Clark ordered it, and I have my "Too dumb to say no" ribbon somewhere.
Oh my God. That's perfect. She make a T-shirt for that.
Yeah.
I'll have to work on our committee for the Canadian National, because when I moved out here, um, it was not a planned move from the beginning, sort of thing. But so I ended up out here in Cochrane. This will be just about 3 years now. It's almost time to move again. Um, I've moved like 25 times.
Wow.
But anyhow, because I was a new kid on the block, what happens at caller associations and dances. You pick on the new guy to become president, vice president, whatever they can get you roped into. So I became vice president of a couple of things automatically because too stupid to say no.
Yep.
Well,
Is it too stupid or too dumb?
too dumb.
Too dumb.
Too dumb. That's better. Okay. Because our granddaughter says you can't say stupid. Boy, it's a limiting thing to have grandchildren.
Have to be politically correct these days.
Well, now the ribbons are these little like ribbon bars.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Back in the day, remember they had ribbons, so you'd
Yeah.
be walking down the street and you'd have this like peacock effect. Of these
Yeah.
ribbons. So one year we were at, I think it was a national convention. It wasn't a
It
Caller
was.
Lab.
It was a national
And
convention.
we had
I think it was
callers
Memphis.
and partners and educator and presenters, and people kept stopping us on the street. What are all those ribbons? So finally we
Yeah.
said, well, we're the world champions.
Oh, gee.
So somebody in some town believes we're the world champion square dancers.
Excellent. I'm surprised you didn't get on Jimmy Fallon or Jay Leno or Johnny Carson.
Oh no, the closest we got was dialing for dollars in Philadelphia.
With Larry
my.
Ferrari.
And did you win a lot of money?
No, we were doing square dancing. It was before we were married. It was before we were married. We
were one of the acts people were calling in and
it was the
pledging money.
4th of July,
Oh, okay.
and they wanted to have like an all-American program, so they wanted to have square dancing. They had somebody who sold hot dogs and somebody who had ice cream and whatever, and we did the standard demonstration. We got people from the Rutgers Promenaders and the teen group. The Church Mice, I think, was still around then. We got square plus a couple, because that way if somebody got sick, we still had enough people to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the standard demonstration, and then while they were doing other stuff, we got people out of the audience, took them out in the hallway and taught them do-si-do, circle left, circle right, and promenade. And then we showed them dancing. And then they set it up so that Larry Ferrari was playing the organ, and it was Bye Bye Blues, wasn't it, Roy? And so
while they were
rolling the credits, I was doing the singing call. We had dancers dancing, and we danced to Larry Ferrari playing the organ, and that was part of the program. Now, here's the embarrassing moment, but it was Roy's.
Oh,
So I had been on local television before. We were, remember they in the what was it, the UHF, the local DJs had the dance shows where they would play music and get guest musicians on, and I was one of the dancers. And this was back in the late 60s. And so I was familiar with some of the TV work, and as we were the out couple while they were dancing over the credits, me and at the time Patty Mulgrew, who was Mike Jacobs' first wife. Later on. And so I see one camera that was pointing at us. Suddenly the red light comes on. So I kind of said under my breath to Patty, you better smile, we're on camera right now. And she goes, whap, hits me in the chest. Oh, no, we're not. So I got home. My mom goes, what did you say to that nice young girl that made her smack you on television? Because it was live TV.
oh my gosh.
That's
Yeah, a
100
lot of-
points. That's 100 points for that one, Joe.
yeah. There's a lot of points in this picture right here now. Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
Lordy.
indeed.
So, let's go on to this. How did you two meet then?
I was in college. It was the spring of my junior year, and the girl that I had been dating for quite a while, I was planning on marrying, had joined the square dance club, and I was a brutally bad boyfriend, just jealous, possessive, and I didn't want to join the square dance club, and I knew what time the dances ended and how far her dorm was from it, so I would be calling her dorm at, make sure she hadn't gone out to the bar with the
We
rest
would all
of
go
them.
out to the bar afterwards, and Donna couldn't come because she had to go home and wait for the call from Roy.
So eventually, but then
Jeez.
that was in the fall. And in the spring, I figured, if I really want to keep her happy, I should take the square dance lessons. So I started taking lessons. And then she dumped me halfway through the lessons. Marry a trombone player I was in the band with in high school. So I dropped out. I don't need these anymore. And then a week or so later, on one of the
I was teaching the lessons.
she was teaching the lessons.
Okay.
Another a member of the club from the Douglas campus. Back then, we had the men's campus and the women's campus, but the club had everybody involved. And she saw me and how come you haven't been coming to lessons and blah 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 blah. Well, she I kind of hung around with her for the rest of the day, and she made a very convincing argument for me to come back to the classes. So I did, and then I dated most of the club, and then married the teacher.
There was one September he was worried.
Well, yeah, I had during that summer, I had already asked Betsy to be my date, I think for the Princeton weekend, and I'd asked the president of the club to be my date for the homecoming football weekend.
Jeez.
I'd gone out with one twin, and but then I was writing to her twin sister, and that didn't end well. And then, of course, I expected Donna to be at the first dance in September. They were all there, but I survived.
Sounds
yeah.
like you definitely were a musician. What did you play?
Sousaphone.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I was a tuba player in the high school band, yeah.
Usually the phrase is daughters don't let your, or mothers don't let your daughters date trumpet players. But in this case, I guess a sousaphone.
Yeah.
Actually, it works pretty good because you really don't have to hold those things. You just have to blow into them. But so easy to you could round dance and play that sousaphone.
I could.
And the mouthpiece is big enough you could cue right through it. You don't need a speaker. Let's set that up sometime.
Yeah, this was a college age group, so it was very interesting to watch the interpersonal relationships happening. And of course, from
Wow.
the stage, you saw who was dancing with who went out the door with whom for a break, and who, when, how long, and when they came back.
And you still married him anyhow.
Yep.
Amazing.
I got to be honest, Roy. Admitting to all that and being like totally possessive, you just got another 100 points. But I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna beat you by the end of today.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Dave's we never did get into your history, Dave, about partners and blah blah blah.
There's nothing about that. This is
That'll
all
be
about Betsy. This is all about Betsy, and we're
That's
talking
true.
about
Well, we're gonna have to schedule you again down the line just to bring everybody up to snuff about this. Uh, might be the end of your calling career, but that's easy come,
I'm
easy
writing
go.
this. I'm writing this stuff down. This is gonna be a sitcom before we're done.
Oh yeah.
So was there anything special? Did you get married like at a square dance or were you
No,
like,
there was square dancing at our wedding,
yeah?
and I called it our wedding with my dad.
The marriage announcements was at a square dance.
Yeah,
Did
the
they? Yeah.
engagement announcement, the engagement party was a square dance.
Yeah.
And the marriage, announcement was there. And we had a band at the wedding, and we had an open bar. And my dad told us later that somebody, the bartender came to him and said, "Sir, people aren't drinking that much. You've got an open bar, you're paying for, and nobody's drinking that much." And my dad said it's there if they want it, but they don't have to drink it. And because we had the band, and when the band took a break, we did square dancing and back and forth. So there was not a lot of time for people to be bored and just drink alcohol.
Yeah, that's good. Because usually the alcohol makes them do funny things.
Well, there was the race that we missed.
Oh,
We had left the reception, and my aunt Eleanor, my aunt Ellie, and Roy's grandmother were not that far apart in age. And one of them said to the other, they were sitting down towards the end of the reception. This is what we heard. We did not see it, and nobody filmed it, but this is what we heard. That one of them said to the other, "I'm so tired I could crawl." And the other one said, "I'll race you." And they did.
oh, for Pete's sake.
And to her dying day, Nana, Roy's grandmother, says that, Aunt Ellie had a short dress on, so Nana was hampered because she was wearing a gown, and that's the only reason Aunt Ellie won.
Oh, jeez. I hope you've got this chronicled and is leaving, you're leaving this for future generations to read about.
Nope.
No, you got to do it. Everybody should do that. Everybody should journal and put it down. It doesn't matter how you do it because there's, it's part of history.
Now,
Joe, you are recording though, Joe, aren't you?
you are recording.
I
Joe.
am,
This
that's
is it.
true. Now I have to type it all up. Darn. This is all part of my retirement fund. Some people call it blackmail, but it's going to come back to haunt you. Oh, Lordy. So, what were you doing then, Betsy? You were calling square dancing when you met Roy here in college. Did you actually do anything else other than call then when you got finished school?
Yeah, actually, I was out of college by the time I met Roy.
Oh, okay.
And
She graduated college the year I graduated high school.
Ah, so she was a grown up and you weren't.
that's
Yeah, I
it.
thought she had money.
Well,
Dave's laughing again.
Dave's enjoying this part. He's racking up the points. Wow. So what did you do? What were you doing then to survive?
I worked for the welfare department.
Ah, so that's where Roy comes in, eh?
Yeah, that's it. No,
The mercy date.
I did one of those too, but that wasn't you.
Oh, gee, got a good memory for some things, don't you?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
worked for the welfare department. I took a job when I got out of college. I was engaged, and I was smart enough not to marry that guy. And so I only worked for a year. I was going to work for a year for Camden County Welfare Board, and then I met Roy. And after we decided to get married and whatever, I did 5 years for Camden County Welfare Board, and then quit, hoping to get a different job, and I didn't. And I ended up at Middlesex County Welfare Board for another 26 years, and then I took a very early retirement.
Wow, 26 years in the same job.
And actually, if you add in the 5 years at the previous county, which I bought back the pension time, I had
Oh.
31 years in the same job.
Oh, wow. Smart move. Yeah,
Yes, it was a lot of good benefits.
yeah. Gee, that's great. So what is there anything in your calling career that happened that you didn't expect?
I'm not quite sure.
I don't think you expected all the awards you got.
No, that's true. Roy said, I've gotten a lot of awards. I didn't expect them.
Okay, yeah.
I'm currently, although other people will be joining this group, but I am currently the only person who has the Caller Lab Milestone Award, the lifetime membership, the gold card in Caller Lab, and the IAGSDC, the International Association of Gay Square Dance Clubs. I have the Golden Boot, which is their service award that's passed from person to person. And I'm the only person right now who has all three of those.
Aha.
Other people will get them.
Yeah.
But they and the Golden Boot was very funny because it was totally unexpected. It's passed from a person to a person for a specific reason. So I'm sitting at the banquet at the Gay Square Dance Convention. It was Vancouver, and I was just sitting there studying. They had a green star fruit, and I'm not an adventuresome eater, so I was trying to decide if I wanted to try this green star fruit. And this guy was speaking about who he was going to give the Golden Boot Award to, and I wasn't listening. And then I heard my name.
What I do, yes.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God.
Wow.
Totally unexpected.
Now, what year would that have been? Because I think I was at several of the
2001. Wasn't it?
2001.
It was Vancouver, because Roy couldn't go because he was coaching high school baseball, and they had a tournament which ended up unfortunately being rained out, so he could have been there.
Oh my, yeah. No, I don't think I was at that one.
No.
But yeah, that's yeah, that Golden Boot. Some really funny things would happen with that presentation over the years.
Oh yes.
I remember the one in Times Square had in New York, and I can't remember the guy's name who was sort of the publicity chairman or whatever. Huge guy, tall, must have been 6'6" to start with, and he had come in with that Golden Boot up on
the actual boot. Yes.
Yeah, the actual boot, but he dressed like a Viking, which made him look like he was 7.5 feet tall. And then the boot, he had a duck to get in the doorway of the convention hall and did his little parade around. But it was far better than what was going to happen, because he went from club to club saying, he wanted to get past a certain number of people attending that convention, because he had made a bet that he could get this number, and if he didn't, he would parade or show up in the nude. And he said, I don't want to do that. So you got to go like, oh God, here's a 6-foot+ giant. No, we're signing up. We're going to that convention. We don't want to see him naked. So going back to what you do, there's so many questions. We're running out of time. Oh, you know what? Do you have the two truths and a lie?
Yes, I sent you a couple of them.
Did you? I wonder where I wonder where they went.
I don't know where they went, but I'll tell you.
Yeah,
You
why
wanna-
don't you?
Okay, so the two, so we give you the three, and you determine which
Which is what?
which is the lie.
Hmm.
Okay, well, our wedding night was on national television, the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. That's one.
I spent a whole semester before Roy took square dance lessons. I spent a whole semester telling Donna she didn't want to date a guy like that.
And the third one was
We spent our first 5 years of our marriage in a trailer with
first
a.
2 years. Okay.
I said first five, with a dog, a cat, and a parakeet.
You're lying about the parakeet, aren't you?
Yes, it was a mouse,
It was a mouse. Okay, so of those
and it was only 2 years.
only 2 years. Oh, did I screw up the poll already?
Nope, that's it. You got it.
That's okay. Gee.
But
So you spent your wedding night with Don Rather.
Well, we spent our wedding night
with,
at the
with
at
one
the,
of his film crews.
we spent our wedding night at the Vet Stadium. Not all of it.
I was going to say, was it
But-
filmed?
It was an early wedding, and we went to a ball game because
Okay.
the Veterans Stadium was doing a promotional thing about. It was new. They were trying to get people to come out to the stadium. So if you went on your wedding day, you had to buy your ticket. You had to send them an invitation, and you got your name and lights on the scoreboard and a bottle of champagne.
Oh my gosh.
So we thought that was cool.
And it was a 10:30,
AM.
a.m. wedding, and the reception was over by 4. So we said, why not? And they announced it, put our name up on the scoreboard, and now we direct your attention to section blah 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 where
Wow.
Roy. See,
It was Elizabeth, because
and
it was
they-
Elizabeth on the
right.
invitation.
And they brought us like bags with champagne. Well, apparently there was a film crew there from CBS Evening News because the Phillies were actually
They started off well in '74.
good, very briefly. So they were doing a feature on the Phillies. So next thing you know, this film crew is all over us, and they're getting shots with us, kissing and drinking a toast. And I'm thinking, I gotta drive home, and they keep having me take another drink.
And I'm looking at the field going, I think there are more people in there now, because I was seeing double.
And
Oh.
one of my college roommates was in the stadium. Another, he came over, and priests were thanking us, and then the vendors
Oh, we got blessed.
vendors wouldn't take our money. I'm saying, damn, I wish they'd announced it earlier.
Yeah.
But and one story, you can't make this stuff up. And so they're filming, and we're kissing, and I hear crack. And I played ball for 35 years. I know different sounds, and I know that sound is a home run. You know that sound off a wooden bat. So I take a quick peek, and sure enough, Willie Martinez from the Phillies had just hit a home run. And this guy stands up around 3 rows down. He's drunk as can be, which is standard at Philadelphia. And he goes, hey, buddy, kiss her again. We need the runs.
Jeez, that's funny.
And then the next week was the national convention in San Antonio, and all of our friends who went to that convention, we all ended up in the same motel, and we took a break when Dan Rather was on. We took our dinner break, and then it was like every door in a row popped open, and all of us stuck our heads out. Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it?
Gee, it's funny. I didn't see it. I was busy calling at that convention.
Well, I called, but I made sure I was there for Dan Rather.
Yeah, that's cool. That's wild. Did you have any other two truths and lies? No.
No.
That was a good one.
I've done others, and I figured people might know them.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go to the have you ever list. Okay, have you ever ridden a motorcycle?
Yes. I passed my test to get a motorcycle license the day before I got married. And my dad said if I had cracked it up, he wouldn't walk me down the aisle.
Oh, what a nice.
Well, I passed the test, so it didn't come up.
And why did you decide to get a motorcycle license anyhow then?
Because
Looking
I thought it was cool.
you knew there were boys involved.
I just thought it was cool. Yeah,
Yep.
that too.
So did you ride for long?
Couple of years.
Probably had the bikes for close to 10 years.
It got to be impractical because you couldn't haul the equipment around with it.
You get a sidecar, man. You know,
I know.
I used to do a tour. One of the tours I did was to the west from Albany area, and anytime I could, I would drive my motorcycle and
Uh,
either pull a trailer or haul a sidecar. Have you ever jumped out of an airplane?
yes.
Did you do it with Di Green? No.
No. No. No. Roy gave me the ticket or whatever for my 60th birthday, and a friend of mine named Daryl Murphy had always wanted to jump out of a plane, but his partner didn't want to. So Daryl and I went up in the plane with our respective tandem people, and Roy and Ken sat on the ground and took pictures.
Wow. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
How-
cool.
What level did you jump out at? Do you
I'm not sure.
10,000 feet.
10,000, yes.
But you only jumped once. Didn't you want
Yes.
to do it again?
Eh,
Yeah.
What she did do, some of you are familiar with, they call it a ride, but in Vegas, there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
platform at the 108th floor of the stratosphere. And for money, you can step off that platform and free fall for like 60 stories.
I'm not into that, but I've done more than a dozen
more than one
skydives.
jump. Cool.
So
The first time I did it, I had to do it again. I didn't remember that first part, but I didn't do buddy jump. It was in the old days when they did static line.
Uh-huh.
oh, yeah.
Cool.
Did you ever fly a plane?
No, that I've not done.
Okay, well, that's next. Might as well put it on your list.
Yep.
Have you,
I gave Roy a lesson one time, so he's flown a plane.
have you? Did you get your license, Roy?
No, I actually investigated it, but with her business and all that,
Yeah.
a couple of year proposition. I said, well, can you do it all in say 2 weeks if I turned it into like 40 hours, a week, and then dedicate 2 weeks? And they said, nope, can't do that. I said, okay.
Huh. That's interesting. Because I did mine in a short period. I was teaching at the time, had no particular expenses, and finally I had the opportunity, so I was at the airport pretty much every day. Have you ever flown in a hot air balloon?
Yes.
Yep. Did you like it?
Yes.
Totally different feeling, isn't it? Did you get weak
Yeah.
knees?
No,
No?
not especially.
Well, tell them about our landing.
Oh, yeah. We had an
She's a thrill seeker.
exciting landing because we went up and it's so calm, and and you can look down out of the basket and enjoy the scenery and whatever. And now the balloon operator says, I'm going to have to put her down because we're drifting over Earl. Earl is the
Naval Weapons Station.
Naval Weapons Station in New Jersey, and they tend to shoot at you.
Yeah.
And so he says, I'm gonna have to put it down, and we're going too fast, so we're gonna have to treetop. So basically, we let air out of the balloon and came down and hit a bunch of trees to slow us down, and landed in some guy's yard, who luckily was very amenable to having a balloon land in his backyard, and he had a car that was made with a kit, and he came and helped us pack up the balloon, and we all went out to breakfast. But it was an exciting ending to the flight because we didn't want to be shot at.
Yeah, good idea. Jeez, everything turns into quite an adventure, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's great. It's the journey. It's not the destination. What? Oh, we're still on the. Have you ever scuba dived?
Not scuba. I've only
Snorkel?
snorkeled. Yes.
Snorkel? Okay. That's
Boy
okay.
scuba.
Dave will, if you've got enough points, Dave will teach you how to scuba dive. Uh, isn't that right, Dave? Yeah, yeah. He's not going to even look up. He's
He's not admitting anything.
no.
I'm texting Dave Eno about how I'm going to gain 1,000 points very soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what you get, Dave, for calling a square dance in the middle of a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, miss the interview. Have you worked in a factory, Betsy?
No.
Did you, Roy?
Warehouse.
Warehouse? Okay. Yeah. Either one of you pulled taffy?
Nope.
Okay. Of course, you
He's
do
part of
realize that's not the name of a duck or anything. That's,
No, saltwater
yeah,
taffy.
okay.
At least here in New Jersey, it would be saltwater taffy.
Yes, that's true. Good stuff. Most likely you've ridden a horse.
Yep.
Okay. Do you play an instrument?
Not anymore. I
Did
played
you?
I played classical guitar for a while.
Did you really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk to Dave Eno? Dave plays non-classical guitar. But he's self-taught, very, very good. Have you met any celebrities? Most likely, I mean, other than Dan Rather and I don't remember the other person there, but
Actually, I called a square dance and got
Roy Clark.
Roy Clark to dance in a square with us.
no kidding. Wow.
Yeah. In Atlantic City, the Roy Clark was headlining at one of the casinos. I don't even remember which one, but they wanted to do something for the people who weren't able to be on the gambling floor. So, and down in the arcade, they had Western themed stuff, and they got us to square dance. We brought a group of people to do a demonstration, and then we gathered people in, and Roy Clark came down to watch and be visible, and we persuaded him to dance. I told him that I would make sure he wasn't embarrassed, but I really think it was our friend Rosemary, who was very attractive, slender female, and came and asked him to be her partner. I think that was the tipping point. And then they all got we couldn't stay, unfortunately, but they all got free tickets to the show. All the dancers he danced with.
Wow. That's great. That's great. Do you remember calling a bad dance anywhere?
Oh yeah.
Where you thought, oh my God, they'll never hire me again?
Yes, and I don't think they have. I don't think they have. It was one of those dances. For some reason, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't at all nervous, and it was flat. It was
Oh.
just flat. It had no energy, and it was a bad dance. And I'm not sure they ever hired me back.
Oh.
How about the one club you purposely called a bad dance and they thought it was great and rehired
Oh,
you?
Oh,
yeah.
gee.
There's a club in New Jersey now called Motivators. It was
Oh, yeah.
started by a couple named John and Mary Aquino, and they were J&M Squares at that point in time. And they didn't like my calling. They had me on their naughty list, or their don't hire list, because I was too helpful. Never mind that they needed it. Never
Yeah,
mind
right.
that they couldn't dance if you didn't give them help, but they didn't like it. And so I wasn't on their list. And it turned out that somebody had to cancel, and they needed somebody to fill in for a dance.
Oh.
And they hired me. And I walked in the room. First, I was expecting some people from Times Squares who just graduated advanced to be there, and they didn't show up. So I wasn't necessarily, that put me in not a great mood. Then the club president met me at the door as I'm hauling the equipment in, and he proceeded to escort me up to the stage and tell me exactly how to call the dance, which put me in an even worse mood. So by the time I got ready to call,
And part of his instructions were, there's these couple of bad dancers, just ignore them and don't.
Oh,
and that really put me in a bad mood. So they had 3 squares, and if at any point in time 2 of them were moving, they were doing really well because I was just calling. And I trashed that floor more than once, and they hired me back immediately. And on the way home, I told Roy, they were still J&M squares then. I said, Roy, they're misnamed. They should be S&M squares because they like being beaten up.
yeah. Oh man, it's amazing what happens, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So, pick a superpower. What superpower would you like to have?
I'd like instant transportation. If it has to be flying, that's fine. But I'd like to not drive for 3 hours for something.
Yeah.
Get there immediately.
Ah. Okay. So if what do you not that you have time for hobbies or anything, but do you have hobbies apart from the square dance activity? I mean, it's an occupation and a career in itself, but and some of us think it's a hobby, even
Yes.
because we're having fun,
Right.
and
No,
we're
I sew. I do make all of our our square dance outfits. And Roy puts the snaps on the shirt, but that's not a hobby. That's just I make him do that.
yeah,
But I sew the outfits. I do. It's a Seminole patchwork. The native tribe of Seminoles in Florida, they do patchwork that involves cutting strips of fabric, sewing them together, cutting them at right angles, and sewing them at an angle. So you get a lot of little squares. And I do that. I don't quilt, but I do Seminole patchwork, and I put it on things. I also do counted cross stitch.
Oh yeah. And Roy, what do you do?
Golf.
Golf. Oh yes.
He can't play baseball anymore, so he has to whack a ball with a stick.
Yeah, I got to hit something. Gee. Well,
And having also, before I was a teacher, I was, landscape contractor, landscape architect. So I'm always working outside, working on the property and the gardens and
oh yeah.
making sure they're good.
So have you had the same house for a long time?
47 years,
Wow.
which is why we're never moving.
I guess so. Holy smokes.
We're not cleaning it out.
I mean, I don't know what our average is, maybe somewhere between 3 and 5 years, and we throw everything out and start over, but we still got too much junk. So what would you like to be remembered in posterity for?
I'd like to be remembered for being helpful in getting people involved in square dancing and teaching them well.
Okay. Yeah. Couldn't ask for more than that. Now we have to cut over to Dave and tally up the points, I guess. Did you get a thousand? Did you get 1,000?
Oh, you can't tell them yet till I get my points. Remember, the points are based on embarrassing moments or embarrassing things in your life. But well, first off, can I ask a question? Betsy and Roy, when you went to the game after your wedding, Betsy, were you still in your wedding dress?
No,
No, you had changed out of it. Okay.
I
That's cool.
changed.
Okay, so I have a couple things to bounce off you. Let me just give you this. Okay. First off, Heavenly in 70.
Louisville.
The City of Fun in 71.
That was New Orleans.
The Place to Be in 73.
That's Utah.
So
You
Salt
got
Lake City.
You got every one of them right.
That
Okay.
and that was Roy's first convention.
Oh, was it? Cool.
Utah, Salt Lake City was Roy's first convention.
And she was
Oh, there
actually
you go.
interviewed for the local newspaper in Salt Lake City. and they were asking about her collar and all that. And she says, well, you do it full time? She goes, no, 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 no. There's professional people who do that full time, and I never want to do that. That's too much work.
And then ended up doing it.
Yep.
Anyway, the point is that I'm going to gain my 1,000 points here is because you're talking about embarrassing things. Betsy, back in 1970, in Louisville, Kentucky, I was 12 years old,
Uh-huh.
and you were my worst crush ever.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, I had a thing for you when I first saw you. I was like, oh, how do you explain it? I'm sorry, I'm over it now, Roy, so don't worry. But at 12 years old, it was really funny. I mean,
Cool.
some people get crushes on their teachers or whatever. But yeah, you were my worst crush way back then. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
Do I get my 1,000 points, Joe?
Well, especially since you didn't notice, but Mary just walked into the room.
Oh,
No.
I know. I didn't
Busted.
notice that. She's standing behind me.
Time to hear that.
Put down the bat, Mary. Put down the bat.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's been over for a little while.
Yes.
But at
Okay.
that-
Yeah.
But at that time, I left that convention and I was dreaming about you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just remember, Dave, I was in landscape construction in New Jersey. I know where Jimmy Hoffa is,
These pieces of it.
and it's not all in one place.
That's
No.
perfect.
Jeez. That's awful. Maybe I should cut this out when I put this to YouTube. We don't want to hear that Roy is in many places.
I landscaped a couple of Superfund sites, so
Yeah.
Gee, that's funny. Louisville, wasn't that? I thought that was 69.
No.
It was
Was
70.
70?
Yeah.
69 was out with Seattle, I think.
Okay. I remember
Just-
Louisville very much.
No, but what reminds you, Joe? Think of the rhyme: heavenly and 70.
Louisville would be heavily in
Oh.
70.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thanks, Betsy and Roy, for coming on today. And thanks for all the folks that joined. Does anybody have any questions or things they want to say about Betsy and Roy? And okay, I thought Karen might have something to say.
Actually, I have a question. I mean, I could just ask Betsy anytime, but you talked about your house. How is it that you don't have dancing space in your house?
Look at the books.
Did you
That's
do
all
that
square dance stuff.
basically,
Like, you have a kid. Roy had to do a special pandemic round
Yeah,
choreograph.
yes,
Right, in the kitchen.
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah,
We bought an older house.
the house is, this house was built in 1916, when basically everything was small rooms, because they wanted lots of kids and all that sort of stuff. And we already took out one wall at the front of the house, so that where there were two rooms, there's one long one, but it's still not enough for dancing. And the basement is a basement, and it's too low. If I wanted to put dancing in the basement, I would have had to lower the floor, because in other words, I'm 5'9", and I'm okay clearing the beams, but not the pipes, because we have a boiler and radiators, so there's lots of pipes. And so we did have a plus workshop there a couple of summers way back in the 70s, but people were literally ducking.
Yeah. Yeah, it was duck, Bruce, duck.
Well, you don't have to lower the floor. You have to raise the roof.
No,
I
that
have to raise the entire house.
would have raised the entire house.
That's easier.
I don't think we can afford that.
Just jack it up,
So,
Well, that's the thing, Karen. I think they were waiting for an invitation from you to use your place.
My newly emptied living room.
Just have to move the piano. That's all.
Oh, we moved the piano. It's gone. It's out.
Ah,
Wow.
It went to the dining room.
it went to the
The
dining
dining
room
room.
all by itself.
Yeah. But even by removing a wall, that if we took all the furniture out of that front area, it's still a linear space. Um, because the rooms were 10 by 10, 10 by 12. So even if you take a wall out, you still only have one dimension that's 10 foot.
Yeah.
We did run my workshop group for a while in the guest room, but that was before we got furniture in there.
Ah, do you have a garage?
Not anymore.
That's the guest room now, hey?
No.
Well, it was a detached garage, and it was almost as old as the house. I taught at a vocational high school, and they would do work as projects. You provide the materials. I'm going to put siding on the garage, and I went out to measure it and stuff like that. And I'm going, has it always leaned that way? And I went and took a closer look at it. Like the sill on the one side was rotted out, and this and that. So, yeah. So we never actually had a car in it. I mean,
We had the motorcycles
we
in
had
it.
motorcycles in it. We never had a car in it, just full of junk for like 25 years.
Yeah.
So I just tore it down, and now the motorhome is parked where the garage used to be.
Jeez. That's wild.
Oh,
Anybody?
and Joe, we were talking about hauling equipment with a motorcycle or whatever. I can say that I have been at least twice on a motorcycle in full crinoline.
Oh, yeah.
Back before we were married, I was dating a guy named Ted, and he drove a motorcycle in the summer, and he picked me up at my parents' place, and we went to a dance, and I figured out all you have to do is take the whole skirt and the crinoline, you tuck it through your legs, tuck it under, and sit. And I didn't want it to get caught in the wheel, so I'd be pulled off the thing by my dress. So we arrived at the dance, and we took the helmet off, fluffing my hair, fluffing the crinoline, whatever. And this lady goes by who was probably in her 50s, and she goes, "If I hadn't have seen it with my own eyes." And then it got funnier because we followed her and her husband into the dance, and they paid their money, and she practically sprinted across the room so they wouldn't have to get in the square with us
Oh, jeez.
because we came on a motorcycle.
Ah. Bad people. Bad. Lordy. Anybody else have any
So I have
contributions?
comment
Dave,
or question. Sorry, I don't have my camera. Hi, Betsy. Hi, Roy.
Hi,
Hi,
Dave.
Dave.
So I'm stuck on this thing with your balloon ride here. So Betsy, you're the daredevil, right? So when you're in the balloon, maybe this is a question for Roy too. When you guys are in the balloon and the pilot says, "We have two choices, get shot down or crash into some trees." Was Betsy like, "Wow, cool, let me try to land this"? Or was there a little bit of concern there?
I don't remember any concern.
I think that basically might have been a concern, but once we started banging through the trees, she's going, "All right, this is," she
Right.
thought it was great. I mean, there was something else where, no, I don't remember, where we were, maybe it was when we were rafting on the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. Where I'm hanging onto the ropes for dear life going through the rapids, and she's going, "Yeah, this is great."
Standing up.
I was hanging on, trust me, but it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Have you got good pictures of any of these events? Not that you would have taken them. Obviously, you're busy
No.
hanging on.
Actually, he figured out how to put a camera in his life vest.
Ah,
A waterproof camera, and I could
Can you-
attach it, and we've got definitely have photos of that. We even have a video of one of the rapids where it actually came up, washed over the boat we were in, and took out someone who was sitting on one of the front pontoons.
oh, jeez.
We weren't kayaking. This was like a 5 pontoon raft with like 17 people on it.
Oh my gosh.
We spent a week going through the Grand Canyon on it. That was one of the best vacations ever.
That's great.
And
Did you ever?
I was gonna say, Carrie, I usually carry my crinoline to a dance and put it on at the dance. I just didn't on the motorcycle. He put that in the chat.
Okay, Joe, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I wondered if you did the mule ride down the Grand Canyon.
a different time we did a day's mule ride. We went down and back. We didn't go all
Yeah.
the way down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fascinating.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
No,
Yeah.
Eileen, I've told
No,
you
no,
week in, I've told you week after week you can't ask any questions, but go ahead anyhow.
no, Betsy has said about calling in the USA and Canada, but what other countries have you called in?
I've called in England, Germany. I've called in Australia
In Sweden.
and Sweden.
Whereabouts in Australia?
Where were we? It was
It was up in Barry Wanson's area, Wollongong, I think.
Oh, Wollongong.
yeah,
Okay.
Wollongong.
And
Wollongong.
she taught a callers clinic up there for 4 days
And Roy did a round dance clinic near Melbourne.
near Melbourne. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
We had a great
I'm-
time in Australia. It was a wonderful place that we visited.
Yeah.
What
I'm
part-
in New South Wales, so I know Barry. Yeah.
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 So we were going to be over there for 3.5 weeks, so I just kind of slipped the word to Barry that you're going to have this accredited caller coach out there already. You won't have to pay for her airfare or stuff like that. So maybe a little caller school. So within weeks it was arranged and it was cool. So we made a little bit of money and I could deduct the airfare both ways.
Oh,
And then we
Wow.
holidayed, went on vacation for the rest of for 3 weeks. We worked for half a week and vacation for 3 weeks. And we had our personal guides with
Duna.
Duna from down in the
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Duna.
if Donna invites you for tea, okay, don't eat before you go there for a couple of days. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
She fed
Yeah,
us like we've been starving.
Yeah. We've stayed at Duna's for several years until COVID. Yeah, and then COVID sort of put a damper on. So I know what it's like being at Duna. She arranges everything. She even tells you what time you got to be at the dance and what time you're eating. And but
Yep.
it's really good because you know exactly what you're doing. Yeah.
Exactly. That's great.
Have you been to Barry
Yeah.
Wanson's house?
Pardon?
Have you been to Barry Wanson's house?
All right. Yeah.
Well, he has like a kind of a place in the basement for guest callers where you have your room and your own bathroom and your own exit and all that. But the room is the puzzle room.
Because he has amazing collections of
He
things.
must have several thousand jigsaw puzzles,
oh my.
Wow.
and they're all
Yeah.
stored in that room. I mean, literally
Wow.
thousands of them.
I'm going to have to get him on.
And
Yes.
his
Yeah.
That'd be
movie
great.
collection is unbelievable.
No kidding.
He's got his living room is kind of a theater room. He's got a huge screen, and then he's got just a wall of DVDs. And he goes, especially old movies. When you name an old movie, he probably has it.
Holy smokes.
So
Wow. Well, we're always glad to see people from Australia on these interviews. Duna usually is on too. She's probably out dancing this weekend. But
Probably.
Eileen has been with me since the COVID days, doing. I think we started with play one, plus level, and worked our way up through to A2. So I pick on Eileen as much as I can. I mean, Eileen is not a caller, but I think we need to have her as an interview person. She has many interesting things like knitting coats for goats. And
okay.
No,
I have
for
one more
lads.
story. That's up
oh,
Dave's-
lambs. Okay, lambs.
One more story that's up Dave's alley. He'll like this one. From Australia. We flew up to Cairns. We were there in September, which is their spring, and so it was a little chilly. But we flew up to Cairns so we could snorkel on the barrier reef. And we just did kind of an overnight, but we'd done our snorkeling on a charter boat, and I'm on the way back, and I'm sitting up front, in the bow. I'm sitting there in the sun, got a beer in my hand, and one of the crew members, and we were easily the oldest people on this snorkeling
tour.
trip, mostly younger people. And so we're on the way back where it's just like a straight shot. And one of the crew members looks over and says, "You look like one contented man." And I said, "Well, I'm sitting in the sun on the bow of this boat, after just leaving the Great Barrier Reef. I have a beer in my hand and I'm surrounded by beautiful half-naked women." Because their bikinis were basically dental floss. And so and I said, "What could be better than that?" And one of the women who was, sunbathing looks over and says, "Well, we could be all naked."
Oh, gee.
There was no answer for that.
What's the name of that tour, Roy? Get it written down.
It's Paradise Tours.
Paradise Tours. I'll have to get Eileen to set that up for us. We'll do it. We'll do her interview on the boat.
It's Australia. They're very friendly people.
That's great. Well, it seems like everybody we've met so far has certainly been friendly and most cordial. Unfortunately, that brings us towards the end of our little interview here, or our big interview for that matter. And I wanted to make a notice of, we did a guest interview with Patty Green. We did one with Di Green. That's GG, and now we got Betsy Gotta, which is another G. So I'm looking for another lady caller who has a G in her name. But our next one is, I think we're off. Are we off next week? Or let me take a look. Where's my list? Because our next caller is another. Right, we're off next week because that's some sort of holiday weekend. And we don't come back until August 13th. Is that right? August 13th. Wendy Vandermeulen from Ottawa.
Cool.
Again, another caller who has, contributed a lot to the activity, and still contributing very much. This is one of the things that is so good. I don't get involved with as much as possible as I could, I guess, with the idea that Di, who's on now, and Betsy and whatnot are female callers, and there is a difference in so many ways in the activity of perseverance, putting up sometimes with, well, certainly putting up with things that most male callers don't have to put up with. I would have liked to have talked a little bit with Roy about being the caller's partner, but since Roy is, equally active as a round dance cuer and a leader in the activity, his take is not the same as someone who's purely a dancer, married to the person in the limelight. I guess the same thing with Di and Terry. They both call. So. But I'm always cognizant of when I'm at a dance calling and my wife is there, of her feelings, that when the dancers say, "Oh, he's such a good caller," or "I love that singing call and he sounds so nice," or whatever. You do get, once in a while, you get that kind of compliment. For me, I'm lucky because Gail is an outgoing personality of her own, and she's the best part of my participation in the activity, really. So she makes me look good off the mic, which is really good. But I like I say, I tend to not get involved too much with. It's almost like the political side of any activity where it's male dominated. But maybe we could talk about that sometime. I'll get all the lady callers on board and we'll discuss that. And
Yeah, that could be tricky.
Well, it can be, yeah. I mean, but you know, the whole idea, even from the dancer's standpoint of, oh, it's a lady caller. I don't like lady callers. I've heard that before. You know, there's just so many things that pop into mind that I don't really like to get involved in the political side of things, because it's just like what we're promoting now in square dancing is, which I think we have promoted it all along, is it's a social activity, and square dancing is the vehicle we use to promote that social interaction, and it's got to be fun. It's just, I don't care what level you're calling, beginners, C4, you know, I've been involved in all the levels. I love challenge, but I also love the beginners. You know, I learn as much from the beginners, the new classes, as I do from the challenge dancers, who are a little more aggressively known to let you know how you're doing.
Critique.
Yeah, critique. Yeah, that's the fancy word, isn't it?
Just
Joe,
a minute, Joe. Joe, was that two truths and a lie again? I
that
mean,
was,
the two truths were you love the challenge dancing, and that Gail supports you and everything. But the lie was that people said
yeah,
they
that,
liked you.
yeah, yeah. I could do three lies and no truths. I've heard it once in a while.
There you go.
In fact, I did a demo for the Stampede. I think it was last Saturday, a week ago yesterday, and a lady from the pancake breakfast, came up and said, "I love your shirt." She was not a dancer either, so, and she looked like she was about 107. So I thought, oh, that's a good endorsement. Could you put that in my testimonials?
Did your shirt read anything, or did it say anything on it?
No, it was a white shirt with some pretty decorations,
There you go.
and it fit me. You know, what more can you ask?
Yep.
Already.
you were talking about people being not shy about saying how they feel. You probably don't remember. There was one time, I don't know how many, long time ago, and I don't even remember which convention or festival it was, but you and Ann were in the advanced hall, and you decided to do an advanced singing call.
Yeah.
And I came up afterwards and told you what I thought about it.
And he wasn't happy.
And I wasn't happy.
No, what was the singing call?
I don't remember the singing call, but my complaint was there was maybe one or two advanced figures in the entire singing call. And I said, you guys doing singing calls like that are the reason advanced dancers don't like singing calls, because you don't put enough advanced figures in them, you know? And
Well,
that was-
that would have been Anne's choice, because she'd rather see people moving than not.
yeah, that was her response. She said, well, the singing call is a bonus. They just want to wind in their hair and keep moving.
Yeah,
So, well,
yeah. Most critiques for me were, that's too hard.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things about J&M Squares, was one of the, that told me exactly how to call the dance. It says in their contract that I cannot call any more than 2 singing calls in the evening.
Oh my
Because it's an
gosh.
advanced dance. And it said it back then because they don't like singing calls. They're boring.
Okay.
Oh
Never
boy.
mind that I could trash them easily with some of the singing call figures that you could write. That was their opinion. And
That's,
Roy felt like that singing call fit into that opinion.
yeah.
So Roy, now this was years ago with Ann and Joe. Would you have the same opinion today?
same. Well, I had the same feeling that advanced singing calls should be advanced.
Yeah, with advanced figures.
Now
anyway.
it should flow, and you don't want to stack them one after the other, like you might. But there should be it should not be a plus singing call with 1 or 2 advanced figures. That's
Yeah.
my opinion. So, and I don't know if I would be forward enough to go up and say so again. But when you're young and think you know everything.
Mhm.
Well, the thing is, if you're calling a singing call, you probably have been calling to the group enough through the session to know what they can handle and what they can't handle. So you should be able to use the advanced figures or whatever the level is,
Yeah.
as much as possible. To me, I want to make it should be about 75% advanced calls. Don't give me a bunch. I dislike it too when the caller calls a singing call it advanced or challenged, and they call, you know, catch mix 3, but after the second hand, flip your lid or something, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden you get scoop back, boys run, slide through, all these basic calls, and swing the corner. No, my brain can't work that way. I'm either going to be thinking a lot or dancing a lot. But yeah, we did a lot of singing calls that were milk toast, I guess. But with the idea being that the dancers, I'm not sure about that particular dance. Where was that? That was Philadelphia?
I have no
I
idea.
don't remember. It was a convention of some sort, I believe. I don't think it was a weekend thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Could have been the Advance and Challenge Convention in Toledo. We did a lot of that, but
It probably was.
yeah.
'Cause that was one of our favorite conventions to go
Yeah.
to. Well, I liked it because the golf course was across the street, and you didn't start dancing till 12:30, so I could play golf every morning and still make the first tip.
And I could go to the art museum.
Well, there you go. Son of a gun. Anything you could ask for and more.
Exactly.
Well, fantastic. Well, you learn from the critiques for sure. Nothing wrong with that. And even the newest dancers to know they can say what they like and what they don't like. But how is he going to learn?
Yep.
And after 60 some years, we're still learning, which makes us sound like practicing doctors and practicing lawyers.
Right.
We should call our activity not
Practicing
calling,
callers.
yeah, calling the practicing convention. If nothing else, though, that we do learn what not to do. Not that we pay attention, put that into action, but we hope to.
Well,
But at any rate, Betsy and Roy, I think you're both milestones in the activity, especially in hometown New Jersey, sort of a thing. But through your activities with Collar Lab and Round the Lab and every lab there is known to man, your contributions and all, they're going to last for a long, long time. And it's people like you guys that keep the rest of us hopefully incentivized to also contribute, to promote, and make the activity. It's got to be fun. I don't care what part of it. Behind the mic, on the other side of the mic, doing things for Collar Lab. There's always criticism. Oh, I don't like those calls. Why'd you put that on the list? Who cares? So and so doesn't like do-do. It's a lousy call. You know what? It's called square dancing, with the emphasis on the word dance. You're moving, you're dancing, make eye contact with people, smile. My favorite phrase is no smiling, especially when I do a demo, because those people are nervous, right? And they're dancing. Right. What's he going to call next? I hope he doesn't call something I don't know. I don't want to be embarrassed. And as they're promenading, and their faces are like, whoa, and you say, no smiling. Well, you know what happens.
They smile.
Ma'am, yeah. And if the audience is paying attention, they catch on and they enjoy it. So fantastic. Thanks for joining us. I know you got a busy schedule. Thanks for the folks that have joined us online. This will be on YouTube about the middle of the week. I got my twin brother visiting me from New York. I'm 12 years older than he is. It was really tough on my mom, but what the heck? And I guess that's about it.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
inviting us.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Betsy and
Thanks,
Roy,
Betsy.
thank you very much. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And
Good
Joe,
show.
keep practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good show, guys. It was fun. For the few minutes that I saw. Sorry it was late.
No problem. Sometimes you got to call.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've missed most of these because I was calling.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
I'm
me
catching.
too.
I'm going to catch them on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Well,
we got
I've missed most of these because I had no interest. So Betsy Gotta came on.
Oh, wow.
he's got a new crush.
And she looks the same as when you were
A
12,
renewed
right?
run.
Yeah,
He's-
I think she was about 19 or something or 20. I don't know.
Yeah. He's
In
scared.
70? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a teacher in high school or something.
No, I would have been 20, 21.
That makes it worse. Thanks.
What's that make you about 91 now? Wow.
Did I get my 1,000 points, Joe?
For him? For me?